So apparently there are people who agree with communism, there are people who agree with the Soviet Union, and there are people who agree with the lady here on the screen, Jessica Tarlov. So we're here to break this video down, you guys. You guys see by the title what's going on. It is absolutely nuts out here, and I'm sure your bank account can feel that. So before we get started, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome to the King Squad, the best reaction channel on YouTube. And if nobody told you today, I hope you're having a great day. You're awesome, and you woke up this morning. Be sure to drink some water. I hope everybody's making their money legally. This is not financial advice. And let's get into the video. I will be giving my commentary periodically throughout the video, more so on the back end, so stay tuned for that. Let's go. Also, thank you to everybody with the success of the last video. You guys are the bomb.com. Let's go.
Call her Kamala the Comrade. Vice President Harris rolling out an economic plan that would make Stalin smile by pushing price controls and masking it as a corporate price gouging ban. But we've seen this movie before, and it always ends in disaster. Just ask the Soviet Union. Price controls led to the massive shortages of food and essentials. Here's the vice president.
Our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. Many Americans
A long way down the toilet.
don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives.
At all.
Costs are still too high. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
And if that didn't satisfy her communist cravings, Kamala is also proposing giving first-time homebuyers up to $25 grand, aka your hard-earned money, so that they can buy a house.
While we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home.
That actually sounds nuts, because doesn't it raise like everybody's taxes? On top of that, if somebody couldn't already put together money for a down payment on a home, like they can't afford the home. So if you just give these people all this money, here you go, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, here's $25,000 for a down payment on your new home. Congratulations. Oh, gee, thanks, pal. Boom, $25,000 on a new crib, and then boom, we're underwater. Like a house, last time I checked, I thought a house was like a ship. You have to maintain the ship. You got to keep it. You got to keep the boat afloat. If these people couldn't even come up with $25,000 for the house, what makes you think that they can maintain the home? Because to me, I'm under the impression with anything you buy, you're paying for the maintenance. Like you're buying into the maintenance along with like the cost of the house. That's kind of how that strikes me. So I think this is absolutely nuts. But let's get into the video.
We can do this.
Are you sure
We
about
can
this?
do this.
I
All to help more Americans
To hurt.
experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security
did not. The
that
pride.
it represents and brings.
You mean the pain of home ownership with your policies? Let me stop.
So that's my plan.
But you know you've crossed the line when the liberal Washington Post calls you a commie. Check out this headline they wrote. It says, quote, when your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose price controls. And even CNN's calling it a gimmick.
First of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. You've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. The specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices.
Reasonable people would ask, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And how is the government going to be involved in it? Is this just a ploy? Because it sounds kind of like it.
All right, Joey, I'll start with you. Yep. Price gouging, it's some say, and I do, that it's a socialist attempt to put a cap or reduce prices, when in the end, it really is about supply and demand, and it's never worked in history.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how they love to use before the pandemic so that they can encompass the Trump years into where prices, interest rates, things have gone. But Trump can't say that. Trump can't say that, hey, in a regular world, I did really well for 2.5 years and the pandemic screwed up some things. He can't say that, but they can, because it puts some distance between them and their bad policies or the results of them. What's really funny to me is that the root cause czar, is that appropriate? Because she's not the border czar, but she may be the root cause czar. As the root cause czar, she's trying to fix the price of housing and the affordability of housing and the affordability of groceries on the back end, on the purchasing end, rather than what's causing these things to be expensive to begin with. You think Kamala Harris, of all people, who should have a doctorate in what root causes are, she's traveled everywhere but the border to find out what the root causes are of immigration. You think she would want to fix the root cause of the price of groceries? And let me tell you what it is. It's energy. I live in a place, I have more cows than people as neighbors. Everything around me is either growing food or growing animals to become food. Diesel costs so much they can't do it. I can't give the hay off my farm away because it costs too much money to come cut it, bale it, and take it wherever they want it to go. The price of food is up because the price of creating food is up, and that starts with energy. So if you want a root cause, look at energy.
You know, the interesting thing is, Martha, when she talks about $25,000, you know, isn't that great? Wouldn't that be great? I mean, forget about the fact that those homes are going to cost $25,000 more.
Exactly.
But she is part of the economy that created the inflation, and she wants you to believe that she's the one who's going to solve it.
Yeah, so after the...
We literally saw this in the movie The Incredibles, like the first one, if you guys ever saw that. Like the villain, I forgot his name, but he literally built those giant ball machines that were like the bad guys, but the whole time he was controlling it. And then he comes in as if he's the superhero. This is just a visual for what's actually happening with Kamala Harris in the economy. I'm going to fix the economy. $25,000 like Oprah. You get $25K. You get $25K. The entire time, you can't even afford to buy food to put in your pantry once you get the house. Let alone pay the light bill. Let me stop.
Pandemic, there were $2.5 trillion jammed into the U.S. economy. And there was money flooding everywhere. And we all don't forget about the billions that were wasted, the billions that were sent to companies in some cases that didn't exist. So we don't hear anything about, you know, how to work down the excesses of all that money that flooded into the economy, because that's where you got 20% increases in everything from milk to bread to cars to energy. So that's why we have this huge inflationary force in the country. It is not because there are big corporations who can't unfairly, she doesn't want them to unfairly exploit consumers and run up excessive corporate profits. These food companies have like a 1.9% profit margin. They know there's a lot of pressure on a food company not to raise prices, right? Because they don't want to get cut out by the competitor, and they don't want to price themselves out of what people can buy at the grocery store. The only time they raise prices is when their suppliers start creeping up their prices, and eventually they have to raise their prices. But these are not highly profitable companies that she's talking about. And I love the fact that they want the FTC to penalize corporations who violate the rules. We just had this big Supreme Court case, which you know better than any of us, the Chevron case, which basically said don't allow these agencies to become basically big brother, like a socialist government. So now the FTC is going to show up at your business and go, let me see your books. Like, why did you make so much money last year? I'm from the government, and I'm here to tell you whether or not you're price gouging. I mean, that is going to cause American businesses to shrink up, not want to be in business, not want to open a new business, not want to add a new location, not want to expand. And that's what we heard about today.
You know, some of this this so-called price gouging, I mean, the crazy part of it is that it's about supply and demand, Jessica, and Republican and Democrat economists agree that, you know, price gouging is something that generally doesn't end up very well. Yeah. But she was, and Kamala talks about her being the attorney general, and I prosecuted these cases. Why? And the reason she's alleging it, she wants a federal ban, is because it's price gouging. It's all prosecuted by the states. Why didn't she call the individual attorneys general together and say, she's been there 3.5 years. Let's get together and deal with this price gouging. All of you, for each of your states, the White House will help you price gouge and find out who should be prosecuted. But no, she waits until now.
Well, I actually think that's a great idea. And I hope that Kamala is watching. We have read that she likes the show, and I hope that she takes that advice.
Oh, brother.
advice. I think part of the reason that this is coming right now is actually twofold. So one, this is the Kamala Harris top of the ticket. This is something that's a priority for her. She had a markedly different tone in discussing these issues than President Biden did. I never heard President Biden acknowledge that bread is up 50%, for instance. She's obviously fashioning herself differently in that way.
Well, she's pandering. She's pandering. And then as far as Biden goes, okay, if you guys recall, I definitely do, the media was doing everything in its power to suppress Biden's downfalls of America. You know, his just horrendous decision-making. All his horrendous decision-making has literally been suppressed by the media. And then they were literally highlighting any and all failures they could come up with for Trump. And meanwhile, Trump has this entire list of achievements. They threw that, you know, in an alleyway with some alley cats. And then they literally just highlighted a bunch of bad stuff about Trump, and then they literally made everything look great for Biden. Meanwhile, people are literally suffering, can't feed their kids. We're supporting immigrants. Okay, people can't afford milk and cookies and bread. It's just diabolical. And so Kamala's coming in saying, "Okay, I'm gonna play God. I'm gonna, you know, let's grant everybody the ability to delete kids, and let's usher in tampon Waltz, and yeah. This is a good plan. Yeah. Don't worry, guys, we got it under control. Put more charcoal in the fire."
The second part of this is it was just in March that the FTC fashioning her. I never heard President Biden acknowledge that bread is up 50%, for instance. She's obviously fashioning herself differently in that way. The second part of this is it was just in March that the FTC report, it was called Feeding America in Time of Crisis, came out. And they actually identified the fact that companies like Walmart, like Kroger, like Tyson were reaping profits so far above the supply chain problems that they had to call it out, and that's what led to this policy coming into being. So that's what she's going from. And I would also say that you could look at this as antitrust enforcement rather than price controls. And she hasn't been specific about that difference. And if it is antitrust enforcement, that's something that's very in line with who Kamala Harris is and who she has been throughout her career. Net, I think that this was an incredibly good day for Kamala. She was able to introduce herself to the American public in a way that she hadn't before. And you take the contrast of yesterday. So you had President Trump, someone who grew up a millionaire, became a billionaire, standing in front of his golf club, ranting and raving about everything, lying about everything from, you know, GDP rates to poverty rates to energy production, et cetera. And then you have Kamala Harris, someone who's talking about her middle-class upbringing, the fact that her family rented throughout their lives, so she knows what it means for people out there who can't get on the property ladder, someone who worked at McDonald's through college. You couldn't have the starker juxtaposition between these two candidates. And then on top of it, she's saying to people, I feel your pain. I know how much things cost. You know what I want to do? I want to build 3 million new housing units. You know what I want to do? I want to cap prescription drug prices for everyone, not just Medicare recipients. I mean, yesterday, we didn't get to talk about it because of the Trump press conference, but because Medicare is negotiating drug prices, seniors will get to keep $6 billion of their dollars. That's $1.5 billion in out-of-pocket costs that will be saved because of the policy.
All right. She's making a lot of noise and not saying a whole lot of stuff. So, first things first, do you live in America? Second, isn't Kamala in charge right now? Can't she start putting some of these things in place right now? So why isn't she? You know, it's all these promises, but like she's literally selected to be in charge right now. They just bumped Biden, swapped him out for Heels Up Harris, and now she's the figurehead. You know, it's just, what is going on with the country, man? It's just nuts out here.
Policies from the Biden-Harris, $1.5 billion in out-of-pocket costs that will be saved because of the policies from the Biden-Harris administration. And that's what today is about regular people getting to keep more of their money.
Greg,
regular people getting taxed more. Okay, got it. Thanks, Jessica.
Antitrust enforcement that Jessica talks about is really not the issue. If we're talking about many different supermarkets, many different meat markets, competition is the essence of, capitalism. We're not dealing with a monopoly.
Well, first, I want to point out something Jessica said, that Trump began as a millionaire and now he's a billionaire. I think that makes him an expert in this. I would rather...
Thank you. I just had to say that.
And now he's a billionaire. I think that makes him an expert in this. I would rather listen to somebody who began as a millionaire and is now a billionaire than somebody who doesn't have a damn clue about economics.
He knows
I've
business.
never heard a candidate than somebody who doesn't have a damn clue about economics. I've never heard a candidate today more unsure of themselves on a topic than Kamala Harris. I think she's been burdened by the weight of expectations put on her by the media. I've never seen a better campaign ad for Trump. She's campaigning better for Trump than Trump is. First, let's talk about the down payment issue on the House. A lot of this stuff is infuriating, because they're treating the American public like idiots. She makes a proposal that is only half an equation. The first half is, here's a nice thing for you. The second half is missing, who pays for it.
Thank you.
You saw this with student loan theft, described as forgiveness. Who paid for it? You paid for it.
Thank you.
You see with immigration policy, who's footing the billions and all that free stuff? You're paying for it. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Yep. And the sooner or later you figure that out, the better off you're going to be. And that's directed at Democrats who don't understand that these policies are going to sink this country.
Yep.
You know, if you cap prices, you increase scarcity by diminishing competition. People can call her a communist, but you gotta explain this, because the media won't ask the follow-up questions. How do you plan on doing this? Please give me an example. Give me an example where industries got together in a room and decided to drastically increase prices. That doesn't exist. The only example they'll have is, a bodega raised prices on umbrellas when it rained. That's all they got. There is no payoff for industries to artificially inflate their prices, because the people who drive the prices are the consumers. That is, if you want to understand supply and demand, it's the consumers who drive the prices. There is absolutely no debate on this. There is not a single economist who would agree that this is the right thing to do. We can go and talk about Eastern Bloc countries. You can look at the cheap, terrible cars that they made and the appliances they made, but you already know that story. So how do you keep a debate alive if we know this is a fraudulent idea? You don't talk to economists. You listen to politicians or talking heads like me who have to do the research, because I'm sick and tired of hearing people pretend like they know what they're talking about on TV, but they don't. So you won't see economists on other shows, other networks asking these questions. Like, can you give me an example of how this is done? What are the major industries? What is the right price? What is too high? What is too low? Can the government set prices based on not having a knowledge of an industry? What do you mean exactly by price gouging? How is that done beyond unique exceptions? Price gouging is a weak phrase directed at weaker minds.
Can I just add?
Bravo.
Preaching. Look at her face. Bueller, Tarlov. Oh my gosh. He snapped. Okay, he was preaching. Absolutely just amazing. And that is facts. Like we said, guys, they think we're idiots, okay? Yes, the guy with the red hat, they think I'm a moron. They think you're morons. And I know we're not, okay? We're out here paying attention, okay? As well as our money, okay? There's that. So, yeah, Heels Up Harris definitely has very diabolical plans for this country to finish the job that Biden, due to health issues, could not. So I think that she's just way more liberal, but of course that's very debatable. Some people will disagree. I definitely think that she's very much more liberal, even though she's trying to pander to independents. Her selecting Tim Walz really puts that on full display, and they're going to literally just continue on ushering socialism and communism on full display for you to see in 4K. So let's continue on with the video.
Ahead, Kamala has no time to answer pesky questions about her radical record because she's too busy grilling Tim Walz about his white guy tacos.
Click here to subscribe.
Yeah, so there you have it. A lot of crazy stuff. Okay, they don't want us to pay attention. They want us to just continue just being blind, and we're not blind, okay? They think we are, though, but we're not. We're seeing this stuff just as bright as day, okay? It's clear as day, and they don't want that. Like we said, they're freaking out that we're seeing it The Kamala Harris high is dying down. That sugar high that she had, that's dying down. Okay, people are seeing the economy. People are hurting out here. People are voting with their wallets. If you're not voting with your wallet, you know, you might be voting with the whole morality thing. That's great too. But yeah, a lot of people are voting with their wallet. They're looking at their bank account and they're like, oh, I can't afford groceries for next week. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay this mortgage? How am I going to pay this car? How am I going to pay this car insurance? How am I going to feed these kids? How am I going to get my kids new school clothes? That's what people are saying. Okay. And they're reflecting back at Trump's economy like, dang, I didn't have these problems when Trump was in office. Okay. Or maybe you did, but it wasn't as bad as this. People are paying attention. Now, the people who are sitting here ushering into, oh yeah, we're going to vote just to delete kids. And yeah, Heels Up Harris is black. Kamala is black. Yeah. Tampon Tim. Yeah. Tampon Tim. No. Voting for that stuff right there, all that nonsense right there, you're voting for your own downfall. You're literally ushering in the downfall of your very existence within this country. And I think more people are waking up and seeing that, but definitely got to get more videos out like this. That's why I say share these videos. We're here to expose the truth. And we definitely got to just continue, using our voice. You either use it or lose it. And that's really what it is. They're trying to get rid of freedom of speech. And there's levels to this stuff. It's insane. But we're seeing it out here, okay? You guys are seeing it. And people are fed up. I said this in the last video. I'm saying it again. People are fed up. They're voting with their wallets. And they're like, Kamala, you're just going to continue on where Biden left off. And Biden did not make some fantastic America, okay? Biden made this place hell on earth, a living nightmare. And people are sick of it. And it's just what it is. So that's my thoughts on that, guys. I hope you guys are having a great and awesome day. You woke up this morning, drink your water, take a walk. If it's daylight, if it's nighttime, I don't recommend you do that. And I hope everybody's making their money legally. This is not financial advice. Stay blessed, stay prosperous, keep God in your life. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.